Which 5 incoming true freshmen have a chance to really turn some heads in spring practice? That's the big question that I have for you today. I've got my eye on 5 guys. Obviously, most of Georgia's number 2 ranked 2023 class are already on campus. They will be participating in spring practice. Always a big deal. And there are 5 guys who I think have a real chance to surprise some people, turn some heads, and maybe, get a step forward to possibly playing early in the fall. Now, the first guy I want to talk about is Janelle Aguero, one of the top safety prospects across the country last year, played out of Massachusetts, played some at IMG Academy in his high school career, but this dude knows how to hit. He is, he's an old school, college football safety. He knows how to pop you. He can play in the box. He's physical. He's a very imposing safety, and he's a guy that receivers have to know about before every play. Hey, am I going over the middle? I've got to make sure this guy doesn't knock my head off. He's got incredible ball skills. He closes well in coverage. He's a safety who can do it all. Of course, they have Malachi Starks, who looks like a possible superstar, first-team All-American candidate next year. So they've got him at safety, but if David Daniel and Ja'Cory Thomas, if they don't, start taking steps forward and progressing and, earn one of those spots, Janelle Aguero is a guy who I could see really pushing them for possible playing time. I do think he checks all the boxes. He was a 5-star on, I think, 2 outlets for a reason. He's put together well physically, about 6 foot, 6'1", maybe 180 pounds, but he can tackle and he can cover. He can do a lot of things, and that's a position where I think if you can, learn the playbook early on, figure out what you're supposed to do, he's a guy with all the tools who I think can, kind of fly up that depth chart a little sooner than later. I have high hopes for him, and he's one guy who I think in the secondary, could really surprise some people. Number 2, this one's easy. Damon Wilson, terrific edge defender, natural pass rusher. They've got Chaz Chambliss there, who is going to bring some experience and a pass rush as well. He's going to play a lot next year at that spot. Marvin Jones Jr. is another guy who I have high hopes for. He played a significant amount, towards the end of games last year as a freshman. I think when he's healthy, he's going to be a big-time player, but you can never have enough pass rushers. And Damon Wilson, out of Florida, 6'4", 230, already looks the part. He is lightning quick off the ball. He can beat opposing tackles with, speed and strength. Yeah, and again, 5-star for a reason. He was the top-ranked prospect in Georgia's 23 class. I have high expectations for him. He still has, a few guys ahead of him, Darius Smith, CJ Madden, that signed in that 22 class. But again, if they don't start, climbing the depth chart themselves, a guy like Damon Wilson, who is coming in, who can really get after the quarterback, is going to push for playing time. He's going to be hard to keep off the field at some point. So if he learns, again, the spring's about learning. I don't expect any of these guys I'm talking about to earn starting positions the way Malachi Starks did game 1 as a true freshman. But the spring is for them to learn and understand what they're doing and continue to lift weights and gain muscle and just learn how to be a college student and a collegiate athlete. But, if these guys do what they're supposed to in the spring, I think, they all have a very good chance of playing in the fall is what I'm trying to say. Raylan Wilson, inside linebacker. Georgia's kind of loaded up there. Small Munda, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, returning starters, 2 of the best linebackers coming back in college football across the country, in my opinion. Jalen Walker is going to be hard to keep off the field. We saw what he was able to do in a reserve role last year. He started to play more and more and made some big plays against TCU at the end of that national championship game. He is very, very good and a multi-year starter guy. But Raylan Wilson is, someone that Glenn Schumann wanted from the very beginning, chose Michigan early in his recruitment. Glenn Schumann stayed on him, said, no, dude, you're my guy. I'm going to sign you. And he ended up signing with Georgia. But he can run, he can cover, he can hit. He's so young for his age, too. He might have been the youngest player in the top 100 in that 23 class. So there's still room, for development. But you talk about the natural tools, the instincts, the ability to, again, cover guys in the middle of the field, bigger tight ends, but he knows how to tackle and he can create, a fumble. But he can pick off some passes too in coverage. He's a guy who can do just about anything, can get sideline to sideline. He is going to be tough to keep off the field. And while, I think he's going to play, these guys are going to play because there's garbage time, right? There's so many games. Ball State, UAB, Vanderbilt, Auburn, Tennessee Martin, these teams that aren't going to be competitive with Georgia. We're going to see guys like Raylan Wilson and Damon Wilson. This is the year of the Wilson, really, in this class. And Janelle Aguero, I think, if he continues to progress, these guys are going to be playing at the end of games. And Raylan Wilson, who again may not start because they are so deep at linebacker, he's a guy who I think could be a multi-year starter, maybe start, be pushing for a job this time next year after a big freshman season. We don't know, but I think the potential for him is very, very big. I expect him to have a very good career and to really make an impact and impress. And I think a few of the guys at this spring are going to be like, wow, okay, Raylan Wilson is probably the real deal. He's got a special future ahead of him. CJ Allen is another one too to keep an eye on. He's not on this list, but I think Kirby mentioned him on scout team. Just getting to campus in December, already practicing with the team has already made an impact. So he's another hard hitting, tough, physical 220-pound linebacker from Lamar County, Barnesville, who I think is going to play a lot as well. But I'm going to give Raylan Wilson the nod as far as the middle linebacker to really emerge and maybe impress this spring. Let's go to the offense. Right? Let's go to offense. I think one of the tight ends, at least one of the tight ends that they signed, are going to step up and be that number 3. Obviously, with Darnell Washington out, you saw Brock Bowers, Oscar Delp's going to slide into that number 2 role. Tight end, he's going to play a ton. But we saw the number 3 tight end, who was Oscar last year, play a good bit as well, almost in every single game. So whoever is that 3rd tight end going into next season, I think it has to be either one of the 2 that they brought in, Pierce Spurlin or Lawson Lucky. I've got high hopes for both. The 2 of the best, in the entire country last year at tight end. But I think Pierce Spurlin is a guy who might make the quicker impact. He's such a big target. The University of Georgia lists him at 6'7". That's crazy tall. I don't know if he's 6'7", but he's 235, 240, runs really well after the catch. He's a big target. And we know how Georgia likes to throw the tight ends, and that is his specialty. He missed a lot of his senior season, so he's got to get 100% healthy. I think he is, because he came back at the end of his senior season. But as a junior, caught 74 passes, 1,400 yards, 20 touchdowns. The guy is an excellent pass catcher. He's got big, strong hands. Played lacrosse and baseball, I believe, growing up. So he's a guy who is just a natural athlete. He's great, with the football in his hands, and he can run pretty well for his size. So he lit up the stat sheet when he was healthy in high school. I expect him to have a big-time career at Georgia. And again, if he can hold down that physical part of, being able to block on the edge as well, he's a natural pass catcher. So I think that this spring, he is one of those guys who's going to push for that, number 3 tight end role. And if you have that role, you're going to play a lot this season, again, especially in garbage time against Ball State and the season opener when Georgia's up by 60 points. Yeah, the number 3 and the 4 tight end should play. And, they were being pitched that, hey, there's going to be some turnover in the room. And if you sign with us in the 23 class, you're going to be in a position to play early. And I think Pierce Spurlin is that guy. Lastly, Tyler Williams, a wide receiver. It's going to be tough for these wide receivers to get a lot of playing time with Dominic Lovett, Ladd McConkey, Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint, Arian Smith, Dylan Bell. I mean, there's a lot of, receivers on the roster, with plenty of experience who know how to play. So, but Tyler Williams is a big physical guy, and he didn't line up the stat sheet at Lakeland. That's because that's not his thing. He wants to help the team win. He is a physical blocker, a willing blocker, doesn't mind going out and doing his job every day. His attitude, what he represents, I think fits what the Georgia culture is. And if they ask him to go out there and block 99 plays out of 100, he's going to do that. So I think his physical nature, his size, and again, he's got big time ball skills. He's a vertical threat. So I think eventually it's going to be tough to keep him off the field. He's a very, very good player, and I think he's going to make an impact this spring. I think a lot of guys are going to end up being like, okay, Tyler Williams is impressing out here, and he brings a physical presence for someone so young. And again, he can catch the football, and he can make big plays in the passing game. There's a reason he was, one of the best wide receivers in Florida and across the South last year. Looks the part already. I think he's going to have a very, very good career at Georgia. And I think he's a guy who, if he continues to impress this spring, learns what he needs to do every down to be the player that he wants to be, I think he could be another guy who can catch some passes early in his career towards the end of games. I'm not saying he's going to fly by some of the guys I mentioned earlier on the depth chart, but I think he has a very high ceiling, and I think he's going to show that. And, I think he has a real chance to turn some heads this spring when he gets to campus and starts learning and really starts to get after it. So those are 5 guys that I have my eye on. I think it's, again, a very talented class overall. especially on defense. And I think we're going to see a lot of those guys this fall. And I think a lot of them are going to start impressing folks, this spring as well. Their first spring as freshmen. Guys, thanks for watching this video. As always, stay tuned to the next one coming up right now. I will see you over on Dog Post.